Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jake Cantor. I'm a long-time Muscle Health Foundation volunteer, and I will be your guide for our latest In Conversation With session. This series of chats is all about helping our band of muscle warriors across the country feel less isolated and more connected. And as it says on this T-shirt, we are stronger together. Before we dive into this week's chat, a couple of bits of housekeeping. Firstly, please join the conversation. I urge you to comment, ask questions, like, share, follow, and subscribe. We are here for you to engage, so please do get involved, and I will endeavour to ask all of your questions as we go through the chat. Secondly, a quick note on safeguarding. My colleagues are watching us go out live and will take any action if they spot any inappropriate comments or behaviour, but I'm sure it won't come to that. Finally, all episodes are being streamed and recorded on the charity's Facebook and YouTube channels. You can check back at any time and watch at your leisure. Now then, I'm very excited to introduce our guest this week, the inspirational Jack Rutter. Jack was, hi Jack. I'll do a bit of an intro and then we'll chat. Jack was a promising young footballer with a contract at Birmingham, but his life changed in an instant when he was struck on the head during an unprovoked attack on a night out in 2009. The blow ended his football career as he knew it, but Jack overcame adversity to forge a new path in cerebral palsy football. He went on to captain England in 2 World Championships and Team GB at the Paralympic Games in Rio in 2016. Jack retired in 2018, but is still heavily involved in CB football and is incredibly busy, representing several organisations, including the FA and the Dame Kelly Holmes Trust. So, lots to talk about. Welcome, Jack.
Good afternoon, Jake. Hope you're well. Great to connect with everybody on the call today. Hope you're doing okay. I know it's been obviously a challenging time for us all, but hopefully we can share some positivity today and have a good talk.
100%. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, genuinely. I mean, let's just start where you mentioned. I mean, what's it been like for you over the last few months? How has it affected your life, your work?
It's been tough, Jake, if I'm honest, but it's been a challenge for absolutely everybody. I've been quite lucky that, I live quite rural, so I can get outside and get a walk and get some training in. I've managed to, when the time's right, spend time with my family and my girlfriend, which is really, really nice. Haven't worked a great deal in terms of going into schools and delivering my workshops, but managed to get on Zoom and different interactive online stuff. I mean, it's crazy how Zoom and everything's taken off, and it's become like the norm now with sessions. Like today, but it's great that even though we're locked up a little bit and we can't quite get out of the house and do what we want to do, we can still find a way to connect. So it's so important for people's mental health and well-being.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's partly why the very things that you're mentioning are partly what inspired these sessions. So, it's great that you're with us in that respect. So should we start the beginning of your life in football and take us back to those sort of early days? I mean, was football always the ambition when you were young?
So my first memories of football were very, very young, and I actually still remember the day, even to this day. It was actually when I was 4 years old, and it was a Saturday afternoon. And I remember I was a bit energetic as a kid, so I was running around the house one day, full of energy. I thought, I need to calm down. I need to do something here with my energy. So I went into the lounge. And I remember I thought, I'm going to watch the TV. And I remember flicking through the channels and nothing coming on of any interest. Remember the news coming on, and it was just as bleak and depressing back then as it is in the current day with what we've got going on. So I didn't want to watch that as a 4-year-old child. But then a game of football came on the telly, and I remember my eyes just lit up. I was like, what is this? I remember seeing the fans and the enthusiasm. And Manchester United were playing. The team that I now support, they were about 4 or 5 goals up at the time, so I thought they seemed like a safe bet, and they were obviously for a very long time. Very successful back in the day, not so much now, but back in the day. So it was a great team to support through the 90s and early 2000s. But there was actually one player playing that day who truly inspired me to want to take up the game of football, and his name was obviously Eric Cantona. Those people are probably 25 and older, I'd say, will know who he is. Fantastic footballer. you'll know Jake, strong, quick, skillful, scored important goals. But he was a real maverick and he really stood out. I remember watching this game at 4 years of age. And I remember he had his collar up and he chipped the goalkeeper and he just stood there, sort of like some sort of god, just lapping up the applause. And I was just like, wow, what is this? Collar up. What is this? This is absolutely unbelievable. Obviously, as a child, you're very impressionable. And I was hooked to football. From that very moment, I said to my mum, Mum, I know exactly what I want to be when I'm older. I want to be a professional footballer. So I set up on that journey from that very moment, Jake.
Fantastic. I mean, 4 years old, that's not many people have memories from their fourth year on this planet. I mean, that must have been very, very vivid for you you to remember in that way.
Yeah, honestly, it's crazy that I can remember it, but I really can. Just the first memories of football is just like I said, the fans' faces, the passion, and just Eric Cantona. I've just got this image of King Eric in my head, and I was like, he's the man I want to be like. I want to entertain people. I want to play football. And then my mum reminds me of the fact I went around the house going, I'm going to be a footballer. I'm going to be a footballer. That's all I used to say for like a number of years.
So I'm sure there are millions of kids up and down the country who do exactly that at home. They run around the house saying, I want to be a footballer. So how did you go from that to actually becoming a footballer? So
that Christmas, I said to my mum that I wanted a football, and that's all that I cared about. So I got that football for my fourth Christmas present. And I didn't put that ball down for a spare second of the day. I remember I'd see David Beckham or someone bend a free kick in. I'll be in the garden practicing it. I just wanted to try and be the best footballer that I could be. And I was rewarded for all that hard work and sacrifice when I actually signed for Birmingham City when I was 10 years old. So I managed to do really well with the school team, go on to sort of professional clubs, Bristol Rovers, Cardiff. But 10 years old, I managed to sign for Birmingham City Football Club, who at the time were just going into the Premier League Academy. So sort of pinch yourself moment. And that was really the start of my real football journey, trying to become a professional signer. So that's how it happened.
And what do you put it down to? Is it a mixture of hard work that, you going back to your garden, practicing, and talent? Or is it more of one or the other?
Well, it's a tough one. I mean, I think it's important to find your passion, I think, in life, early doors. I mean, we all have different passions, whether it's music or drama. But football was just it. It was just like the thing that just made me so happy, feel so free, and released all that energy that I had and pent up sort of maybe stress or aggression I've had. It's a bit older now, but that I could have, and I can release it in a positive way. So I think that just got me involved in the game, and I just love playing. I think it's something to do with talent. My family have all been pretty good at sport. My dad was basically a professional cricketer. My mum's very good at sport as well. My grandparents and uncles were very good as well. So some natural ability, but I think it does come down to hard work, sacrifice. So instead of being on the console PlayStation, you're out playing sport and improving. I think it's also important that you learn quickly. So you get shown something by a coach, or you watch something on the TV, you go and practice it, and you learn from failure. You don't let it get you down. And they're the sort of things I think I was quite good at from a young age, quite a tough mindset from a young age. And that, I suppose, came from my upbringing with my mum being quite hard on me, but in the right way. Yeah.
And so were you scouted by Birmingham? And where did you play? What was your favourite position?
So, yeah, I was 10 years old. I've been involved with Bristol Rovers Academy in Cardiff, but I was still playing for my local team, which was a team called Windsor Drive in Gloucester. And I was actually playing in a 7-a-side tournament at Matson in Gloucester. I did really well. And what I didn't know is that one of the players in the team, his dad was a scout for Birmingham, and he'd been watching me all season. So I didn't have a clue about this. And then he approached my parents and he said, Jack's been first class this season. Very, very impressed with him. He really stands out a mile. It's obviously very nice to hear at such a young age. Would he be interested in coming for a trial at Birmingham City? It'll be a 6-week trial. You go up there, you train twice a week. And then at the end of it, they'll tell you whether they're going to sign you or not. So that's how it all came about. So I remember it's like, it's a 60-minute drive to Birmingham. It's not quite a long way, big commitment. But, I've never had goosebumps like it. Absolutely incredible. Arrived at the training ground, unbelievable facility, first-class coaches and players I've never played with before, that level and ability. I was one of the worst players. So I was like, how am I going to get signed here? But luckily, like I said, I learned quickly. I did well. And my first game was actually against Manchester United at Carrington. Yeah, it was at Man United. I couldn't believe it. My first game against Man United. I should have scored, actually. I missed a sitter at the back post. But following that game and doing well, I got signed by Birmingham City only after 3 weeks of my trial. So couldn't believe it, signing for a professional team so young.
So what did you think when you walked into Carrington? Were you like, I think I've made it, have I?
You do, yeah. I think as a kid, you don't really appreciate it. Maybe you don't take it all in as a child, don't you? You don't have the same feelings as you have as you're an adult. But it was just absolutely unbelievable. Just like the pitches, just so pristine. You know, the best footballers you could get hold of, playing against some of the best footballers in the country. Seeing the Man United badge. And thinking, I've seen this on the TV. Eric Cantona played for this team. You know, David Beckham, Ryan Giggs, and now I'm playing against their youth team. So again, it was a pinch yourself moment. Couldn't believe it. Yeah.
And so clearly you progressed at Birmingham, didn't you? Tell us about your time there. Obviously you were doing well. You were competing in competitions to a very high level, weren't you?
Yes. So obviously signed when I was 10 years old, which was absolutely fantastic. And then I spent 8 years at the Birmingham City Football Academy. It's quite a grueling schedule, if I'm honest. From 10 to 14 years old, I was training twice a week and a Saturday sometimes for a training session on the morning, games on a Sunday. So 4 days a week, as well as school. And growing up, it was tough, but it did teach me a lot. And at 14, I signed a 2-year deal, which was really great. And then I started missing school. I'd only go to school probably 3 days a week. I'd be on day release training with the older boys, which is again another challenge, another test, but again taught me a lot. And then 16, I managed to sign my scholarship for the club. So obviously finished my GCSEs, moved up to Birmingham, lived in Diggs, so a family looked after me. And then I was training day in, day out for the club. Absolutely incredible. That was when it really started, training full time, getting paid to play. And playing against all the big teams. You know, I was playing against Manchester United regularly, Aston Villa, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, and playing against some top players who've gone on to play for England, gone on to play in the Champions League. Great memories to look back on. And then at 18, we'll probably go on to this in a moment, but 18 years old, everything was going terrifically well for me. I'd captained the youth team on many occasions. We reached the semi-final of the FA Youth Cup, which is one of the biggest youth competitions in the country, if not the world. And I was just about to sign my professional contract for the club. So things were looking really great.
Yeah. So I'd love to ask you about some of the players that you played against and played with. But should we just continue your story just a little bit and you go ahead from here? From where I was?
Yeah. So like I said, everything was obviously going terrifically well. We beat Watford in the quarter-final of the FA Youth Cup to reach that semi-final place. And then that weekend, they gave us the weekend off. So full of high spirits, looking forward to this game against Liverpool at Anfield and signing my professional contract. So, you know, really positive time. I went home for the weekend, and on the Saturday night, I went out with my friends, and it was a really fun, enjoyable night. And at the end of the night, I remember leaving the nightclub, and I've seen a friend I used to play football with at Windsor Drive, the club I obviously grew up playing for. I'm literally chatting to him, I'm having a conversation with him, and then a boy, because he was a bit drunk and he was jealous of the fact that, you know, I was a young footballer, and I'd kissed a girl in the nightclub who he was obsessed with, and she tried to get a restraining order on him and everything. So he was jealous because of that. So he took his opportunity at that point to walk up behind me as I'm talking to my friends, and then he's come and punched me in the back of the head. Now, unfortunately, that one single blow knocked me completely unconscious. So when I fell, hit my head on the floor, it was quite a grueling, traumatic scene, knocked unconscious. And I was rushed to Frenchay Hospital in Bristol, which is a brain injury hospital, where I spent 3 weeks in intensive care. For the first 48 hours or so, it was touch and go, whether I would even survive or not. That's how serious it was. My injuries included double fracture to my skull. So I fractured my skull on the back there. I fractured it on the right-hand side here. That fracture actually severed my cochlear nerve, which means my right ear is completely deaf. I had a bleed on the brain, and I suffered moderate brain damage. So some really serious injuries. And when I left hospital, I actually left hospital in a wheelchair because at the time, my balance and coordination was so bad. If you'd have asked me to walk in a straight line at that point, I was wobbling to the right, wobbling to the left, very, very dizzy, and had real bad pains in my frontal lobe of my brain from the brain injury. So I went home and I basically spent 20 hours in bed just resting and recovering. So it was a horrible, horrible, traumatic time for me and my family.
Extremely traumatic. I mean, how long has it sort of taken you? I mean, you talk so frankly and openly about it. It's extraordinary. How long did it take you to be able to reflect on that moment with such honesty and share it with others?
It's taken a long time. It's over 11 years ago now since the injury, since the assault. So it happened on March the 22nd, 2009. I actually couldn't even speak as well after my brain injury. My memory wasn't as good. I used to get very, very fatigued. I'd mumble a lot when I spoke, and it used to really frustrate me, and I couldn't remember certain words. My vocabulary was really bad. So that's the crazy thing about a brain injury. I knew physically I wasn't the same with my coordination and my balance and my agility, but also my mind wasn't the same. I wasn't as focused, couldn't concentrate, couldn't speak as well. And I was always tired. So it was a real challenge, really, really tough to come to terms with. But I just tried to stay patient, tried to work hard. But obviously it was the opportunity to find out later on to get back into the game that I loved, playing in the Paralympics and stuff that we'll go on to in a while, I'm sure. That gave me my confidence back, my self-esteem back. That's when I started doing my speeches, my mentoring, and that really gave me the platform then to share my story. And hopefully I've got better and better at that. But it's been a long process. I wasn't like this 10 years ago. I'd have broken down 4 times and probably cried my eyes out by this point. So I feel fortunate that I've managed to turn things around now.
So you were left deaf in one ear, and so were you diagnosed with cerebral palsy in your extremities, in your limbs? Is that right?
So not quite. So cerebral palsy is more from birth. So when you have a brain injury at birth, that can cause cerebral palsy, which is, for those who don't, I know most of you probably know, but muscle problems with your limbs, your legs and your arms. It can affect your coordination and balance. But if you can also play in the Paralympics or in 7-a-side football if you had an acquired brain injury. So it could be a stroke, injury in a car crash, things like that. And I could play because of my traumatic brain injury. The doctors think I've got a bit of dyspraxia or ataxia. So I've got a slight delay with my brain from seeing something happening on the pitch, for example, and then my body actually reacting to it. I can't quite react as well. But fundamentally, it's down to the fact that my balance and my coordination isn't what it used to be. It's not as good. It's improved a lot, don't get me wrong, and that's taken a lot of training and effort and stuff like that. But that was why I was allowed to play in the Paralympics, because of the traumatic brain injury.
Okay, understood. We've got a question which is actually really well timed for this part of the conversation from John Boulding, who I'm sure your paths have crossed. But
I know John.
A fellow England captain. Hello, John. I hope you're well. We've spoken before, John, so it's really good to see you're tuning in. So a lot of people involved in the Muscle Health Foundation were born with their disability. Your disability wasn't from birth, but later on in your life. What advice would you give to someone who has not had their disability from birth and is struggling to come to terms with it?
That's a really good question, John, and nice to connect with you, John. John's a fantastic, you probably know already, Jay, but what a player John is. I think he's a European champion. So I feel in awe of him. If he's asking me a question, I should be asking him questions to learn a bit more from him. But thank you for the question, John. It's a tough one. I think the best bit of advice I can give is that after sort of a traumatic experience like that, where you have a disability, out of nowhere, you never thought would happen to you, is to not try and let it affect you for the rest of your life. We all go through bad experiences in some way, and we can let those sorts of things possibly define us for the rest of our life, and then we never can move on from it. You have to try and find a new opportunity, a way of growing. I think you can actually grow more through adversity, and you can learn more through going through a bad time. So if you can try and get that mindset when you go through something like that, the better. But the main thing is to not try and worry about the end goal too much. So if I focus too much on getting back to my level before my brain injury, it used to drive me crazy, because I'd be falling over doing exercises. I couldn't do what I used to do on the pitch. If you try and break it down into small goals, small steps, going through the process first, you'll find that you'll improve at a quicker rate. It'll be better for your mental health, and you just improve slowly by slowly. It took me at least 6 years to get anywhere near the level that I was at before. And I won't be as good as what I used to be at football. But the fact that I've had those injuries and recovered how I have, I'm proud of myself now. I've reframed the situation, And I've said to myself, I'm a lot luckier than a lot of people who've had a brain injury in the way that I can communicate, in the way that I can move and play football. So I just count my blessings, really.
So, I mean, how did it change you as a footballer?
It's like I had to go back to the drawing board, really, and just sort of not learn everything again, because it was all in my muscle memory. But it was about, okay, right, what's stopping me from being the footballer I used to be? It's my coordination and balance. So I'll do coordination exercises, balance exercises every day, 20 minutes without fail. And I did find that I slowly improved a little bit. And I thought, okay, I'm getting better at that. Now I want to dribble with the ball at the same speed I could do, because I could dribble very quickly with the ball and go past players. But I just found that my balance moving at speed wasn't as good. So I just had to say to myself, look, you're compensating well. You can still pass a ball. You can still move okay. You can still react okay. But you're not going to be able to do things at the same speed or pace. So it's not limiting myself, but just being realistic and saying, how can I still have a positive effect on the game without trying to do too much, simplifying the game, building confidence. And that's what I've tried to do as best that I can.
Yeah. And I know you've talked about this in other interviews, Jack, in terms of the love and the support you've had from your family. And that was something that will be very familiar to a lot of our beneficiaries. How did that help you? Why was that so important?
It's so important. You have to have a support network available to you. Everyone does, but especially if you go through a bad time and a traumatic time. So I lent upon it tore my family apart. My mum and dad split up when it happened. My brother's autistic and he's got bipolar as well, so he was really struggling. And my sister was doing a law degree and it affected her. She almost had to take a year out. She's now a barrister though, so don't worry. She's absolutely incredible woman, one of my inspirations. But it was hard for me and my family, but we had to reunite. We had to stay together, stay connected. I just lent upon my mum and my sister mainly, who took a lot of the burden. Going through bad times, getting into trouble, going through awful things, but they're always there for me. They always put their arm around my shoulder, gave me an ear to listen to my thoughts and my feelings. So I can't thank them enough. But also, I would say the charity Headway, which are a brain injury charity. They just helped me to realise that life won't be the same after a brain injury, but we understand and we're here for you and we give you some guidance so that you can try and rebuild your life. So I would say my family and Headway were instrumental to my recovery. And then obviously that's when the FA came in as well. And they gave me the opportunity to get back into the game that I love. So I'd say those three things really helped me a great deal.
Let's definitely talk about your progress back into the game. But just before that, we've got a question here which touches on the friends and family, but also asks, were there people who doubted that you could play competitively again?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I remember when I went back to playing at a very, very low level, and people that knew of me in the local area would just laugh at me and say, you're not the same as you used to be, you're rubbish, this and that. And it was it was horrible. It was horrible to hear these things. A doctor said to me that, with losing your hearing, which is obviously vital to your balance and your brain injury, riding a bike will be hard, surfing on a surfboard will be hard, playing at any real decent level in football will be tough as well. So you hear this, like, okay, well, we'll see about that. We'll see who has the last laugh, so to speak. So that gave me that grit and determination to say, I want to prove people wrong. I want to recover. I want to show people that what can happen if you work hard and you don't give up and you prove the doubters wrong. So obviously I was lucky in many ways, but it was down to my mindset, I think, and support that I had that gave me the opportunity to come back the way that I did.
So you sort of turned it into motivation.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's what I say in my speeches a lot, is that everyone goes through a bad time. It's not just me because I've had a head injury. It's not just people on this call. Everyone in the world goes through a bad time. But what a lot of people do is, unfortunately, they can let that define them for the rest of their life. And they not use it as an excuse, but it prevents them from moving on and growing and taking up opportunities because they're scared of failure. I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to be a professional footballer, but there's still so many things that I can do. So I'll take that pain, that frustration. I remember those comments. I remember what the doctors said. And I'll prove them wrong. And I used it as motivation to help galvanise me forward in my life, definitely.
Yeah, that's a great lesson for us all, I think. So, things started to change for you in sort of 2012, is that right? And you were introduced to Headway, which you've talked about. At what point did you start to think that there was a career for you in CP football?
So yeah, it was in 2012. I'd been for a bit of a miserable time. I'd went to university at Nottingham-Trent and failed miserably. I'd actually started coaching a bit, but didn't enjoy it at the time for a number of reasons. So I was at a bit of a loose end, didn't know what I was going to do. But at the time, I was living in Nottingham, and I was going to the Headway group, Nottingham Headway group. And one day I just said, is there any disability football that I could potentially get involved with? I'm deaf in my right ear. I've had a brain injury. They rang the Nottinghamshire FA, and they said, yes, we have a team called East Midlands Cerebral Palsy Football Team that train at Nottingham College. It's for people who suffered a brain injury before birth, during birth, or later on in life. And I went to the centre, met the coaches, Liam and Pete, great blokes, met the other players, and I just couldn't believe it. They were so inspiring. They were a lot more impaired than I am. You could really see it when they ran and they walked, some of them when they talked. But they were so proud to wear that East Midlands badge and to compete for their local area. I thought, wow, these guys are incredibly inspiring. And that really helped give me that lift, that confidence, and say, you know what, I'm going to get involved in the game. I'm going to see what can come of it. It felt like a second opportunity. So I started playing for the regional team in East Midlands, did really well. And then obviously watched London 2012. I should have played in London 2012 if I'd have found out about the sport a bit earlier. But that gave me more motivation again. But watched it on the telly on Channel 4, watched them against Ukraine in Brazil. And I thought, I want to be on that pitch. So come October, I got the phone call. I sat in my bedroom at home at my mum's house. And Jeff Davis, who basically runs para football at the FA, he said, Jack, heard about your story. Know you're a good footballer. Come have a trial with the England team. We're going to be trained at St George's Park, the brand new state-of-the-art facility. And I just couldn't believe it. I was literally trying to get him off the phone because I was just crying my eyes out. And I went and told my mum, and she was buzzing, and my family was so excited for me. And that's how I found out about the opportunity to get back into the game. Unbelievable.
Wow. So what was that first visit to St George's Park like when you walked in?
Oh, I crave it. I remember driving through the gates, and it's just like loads of fields. The driveway takes about 20 minutes to get in there. It's crazy. It's such a big facility. And eventually I get in, and there's a Hilton hotel, there's a Hampton. Everyone's dressed smart in England kit or suits. There's just so many people there. It's full with people all involved in different parts of football. So it's quite overwhelming to begin with. But then I sat down for a team meeting and a team meal. Met the other boys' team, so inspirational. Met the other coaches who were fantastic, made me feel welcome straight away. You had buffet food, whatever you wanted, first-class food. And I remember just going into my room, and all my kit was laid out. So my T-shirt, shorts, socks, raincoat, all England kit, England badge, in a Hilton room. The next day I'm training for my country. I've got a trial for my country. So, again, just absolutely incredible. St George's Park is just a fantastic facility. I don't think it's any surprise that we've had so much success since it's been built in every form of the game, whether it's women's, men's, disability. We've improved so much, and we all train at the same place, which I think is incredible. So I'm so thankful for the FA investing in that, because it is a state-of-the-art training facility. It's unbelievable.
Fantastic. I mean, I've actually spoken to John about this previously, about John Boulding. For those who are just tuning in, John Boulding is the captain of the Power Chair Football England Power Chair Football team. And he was saying that all the teams mix together as well. So 1 minute you could be walking past one of the first team England players, and the next you're with the women's team or whatever. So it's a fantastic environment in that sense.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. You get treated so well by everyone there, the staff, and also, like John says, every single time you go there, there'll be another England squad. So there's been times we've been there where the England boys have been there, the England men. So you've got Harry Kane there, who's just scored 30 goals in the Premier League. You've got Southgate there to have a chat with. Or you've got the women's team as well with Steph Houghton, who's a fantastic footballer for Man City, and England women's team. So it's so good that we're all mixed together in the same environment. Everyone treated the same. Everyone given the opportunity to play for their country, which is what it is all about. Yeah.
And so that trial with England, when did that convert into you playing regularly and then eventually rising to become captain of the team?
So, did well in the trial. So they said, okay, we want you to be part of the squad. I had to have some medical tests done by the classifiers. So you have to be told what sort of level of impairment you have, where you'll fit in. And the England staff said, we feel like you could just about qualify to play. So that was good, because you're never really sure when you've had an acquired injury whether you'll be allowed to play. You might have recovered too well or not be affected enough with your disability. But they were confident. So I went to my first tournament, which was in the Intercontinental Championships in Barcelona. Again, got classified. They said you can play. And I remember just walking out, or actually getting to the changing rooms for my first game against Russia in the Intercontinental Championships. Russia were the best team in the world. And I just remember walking into the changing room and just seeing my shirt hung up, Rutter, number 9. Don't know why I was number 9. I've never been a number 9 in my life. I've never been a striker, but they gave me number 9, Rutter on the back, and my hair's just stood up on the back of my neck. I never thought I'd have that feeling again that I had when I went on trial to Birmingham, when I played against Man United, FA Youth Cup reserve team games, and I had that feeling again. And it was just something that will stick with me for the rest of my life. We lost the game 8-0 because Russia are that good. But the experience was absolutely incredible. I did pretty well in the tournament. I managed to score a hat-trick against Spain, which was nice because obviously it's in Barcelona, so I had all the Spanish fans shouting abuse at me as I'm kissing the England badge after I scored my hat-trick. But I did pretty well as an individual. The team, we all could have done a bit better. We only finished 9th. We'll go on to our improvement later on, I'm sure. But it's just a great experience of elite football, playing in CP football at the top level. And then following that competition was when I was made captain of the team. Something that I couldn't believe because a year prior to that, I'd stopped playing football completely. I'd stopped watching football. I didn't want anything to do with it at all. So just by taking up opportunity in the disability football game, I was suddenly captain of my country. Couldn't believe it.
Did that reignite your love for the sport full stop?
Yes. Yes, in many ways it did, because I was back doing the thing that I loved. And, it's that whole camaraderie and being involved in the changing room, being with your teammates, fighting for those 3 points. It just gave me that confidence back. And I started to show the qualities that I knew I had with communication and leadership and galvanizing the troops forward. That's something I've always done as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old playing football. And I seem to just lost that. I'd have my head down. I was insecure about everything. I was always worried about everything, mental health problems. So to suddenly have, that self-esteem back and that confidence that football gives me, it just reignites my life. It really does. It's what I'm all about. And, I can't thank the FA enough for giving me that opportunity.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned classifications. We've got a question here which kind of it follows on from that note. So this individual asked, was there ever a time when people challenged you and felt that you weren't disabled enough to compete in the Paralympics, for example?
Yes, because I come from a professional football background, obviously I stood out. My technical ability stood out as one of the best players in the world, and I could really influence games. But you do get classified at different levels. So in CP football, when I was playing, there are 4 classifications. So you have like a level 5 CP, normally in both legs, level 6, which is some sort of impairment in all 4 limbs, a 7, which is a hemiplegic, so CP on one side, the most common type, and then you have 8s, which are like the sort of superstar players because only one of us can play at one time, and they're normally the most mobile, the most versatile, and we're normally mild CP, cerebral palsy, or acquired brain. Those players always getting challenged. You only have to score a few goals against a team, and they're putting in a form saying we don't think he should be playing. So I was challenged throughout, like many players are in my position, but the medical evidence is there. When I did the tests, I qualified to play in every single one. So I'm just thankful that the classifiers saw that and saw that I was impaired enough to play, because I truly believe I should have played in that sport. There's no doubt about it. You shouldn't base it always on the ability. It's about the impairment, and I'm impaired enough to play in that sport in the old rules, definitely. Yeah.
And so tell us about how it compares to sort of regular football. Obviously, the teams are smaller. The number of players that you have on the pitches, there are fewer of you. And are there different rules as well?
So it's 7-a-side to begin with. So obviously less players, as you said. The pitch, I would say, is about 3/4 the size of a normal pitch. So if you think of a normal pitch, it's probably 18-yard box to 18-yard box in depth. And it's probably about 10 yards in terms of width. So it's still a massive pitch for 7-a-side because there's no offsides. So Brazil, for example, would always have a goal hanger, would literally stay on the edge of the box, waiting for someone to pump the ball up to him. So you're covering at midfield such a big area, lots of transitions, no offsides. So you're supporting the play, trying to score, and then you lose the ball and you've got to run back. I've never been fitter in my life, I don't think, playing CP football. Far harder than 11-a-side football. But in the game, the rules are exactly the same. The goals are a bit smaller. All that's different is a throw-in can be taken in the normal way, mainstream way, like that over your head, or you can roll the ball underarm. like a bowling ball.
Right.
That's the only difference. Is free subs still, and then obviously you have the classification rules, which is obviously different to normal football. But apart from that, it's all the same.
Yeah, and that moment where you were made captain, can you remember it fondly? And what were your memories of that?
Yeah, again, it was at St George's Park, and we had sort of an interim manager for a while called Keith Mayer, who's a fantastic coach. He's like a guru as well with all mindset and stuff like that. I've learned a lot from him. And he sat me down and he said, Jack, you know what, we've got some news for you. I'm thinking, what have I done now? What have I done? Have I messed up or done something wrong? And he said, we want to make you captain. We think you've shown some great leadership skills in Barcelona. We were very impressed with you. You seem to get on with everyone and join the group together, whether they were 30 years old or 16 years old. You got on with everyone, and fundamentally you did well as a player. So they said, we want to make you captain. They announced it in the dressing room, and I was captain from that moment all the way through my career. So such a proud moment for me and my family. And like I said before, the main message I want to get across there is you don't know what's going to happen in life. A year prior to that, I said where I was at. I could have seen that opportunity and been a bit scared and worried, which I was. But I thought, I've got to take the opportunity. I have to do this. We'll see where it goes. And yeah, absolutely unbelievable to be made captain of my country. Probably the proudest day of my life.
Yeah, and you've talked about sort of being open-minded and that being one of your sort of mantras in life. I mean, where did that come in those years after your injury?
Yes, I think when I was growing up, it's hard to remember totally, but I was a bit selfish, definitely, and I did have tunnel vision. It was all like football, football, football. That was it. I didn't always show empathy towards others. I wasn't the person that I am now. I wasn't always the best person, I would say, if I'm being totally honest. But when I had my brain injury and I met people in CP football from the Paralympics, other people who have been through far more than I had, it really opened my mind up to the world and what's possible, and the fact that so many people go through a bad time, so many people go through challenges. It's not just you. So try not to be a victim and think that the world's against you. There's so many things out there for you to do. If one thing doesn't work out, go and do something else. If you fail at that, dust yourself down and go again. And that's the message that I try and get across to people all the time. Be open-minded, stay positive, learn from failure, and never ever give up.
So you led the team. Sorry, just to remind people who are watching, please do get your questions in. I'm asking lots of questions myself, but if you guys want to ask something of Jack, please just type a question and I will ask it as soon as I can. So I mean, you led the team in European Championship, two World Championships, and of course the Paralympic Games in Rio for Team GB. That's pretty remarkable. I mean, obviously, one of those World Championships was also at home, wasn't it? It was in 2015. You were playing in England.
Yes, so unbelievable journey. So as you said, made captain after the Intercontinental Championships in 2013. Then we went to the European Championships in Portugal, where we drew against Ukraine, who were at the time #1 in the world, probably the best result in the history of our sport. I scored the free kick. And then we were a minute away from beating Ukraine, and then we lost our concentration and let them score. It's always the same with England football teams, isn't it? But we let them score, which was frustrating. But it just gave us that confidence and belief that we could really mix it with the top boys. Because, like I said, we lost 8-0 to Russia the year before, and then suddenly we're drawing with Ukraine, who actually had the capabilities of beating Russia. So it showed the fast improvement that we made. Following that competition, as you said, went to the World Cup, which was held at St George's Park. Largest disability football competition ever held in England. So against Japan and Ukraine, I believe there's around about 1,000 people there, which was amazing. 16 teams from around the world competing in the World Cup. And the top 8 in that competition would qualify for the Paralympic Games, which took place in Brazil the year after. Fortunately, we just about did it. We finished 5th. In the end, beating the Republic of Ireland 2-1, which was a great result because us and Ireland were always very close for a number of years, and they beat us in my first tournament, so I always remembered that. So it's nice to get one over on them. Sorry to any Irish on the call today, but we got our own back a little bit there, and then we qualified for the Paralympics, and that's when the build-up started. That's when you almost feel like a celebrity. I was doing adverts, I was doing newspaper interviews. It was just, I couldn't believe the attention around the Paralympics. So the build-up to that was absolutely incredible before Rio.
So tell us about Rio. It seems place. I mean, look. I mean,
it's just something else. I mean, you get overwhelmed though. There was 2 lads in the squad Johnny Patterson and Michael Barker had been to 2 Paralympics before, so they were just nonchalant about it. They were just relaxed. It's been before, and I was looking at them thinking, oh, excited. We were all just like deer in headlights. Couldn't believe it. Doing adverts, like I said, doing interviews. You know, getting all your kit, getting it fitted from Adidas, getting your suit from ASOS. You know, absolutely amazing. And you arrive in the Paralympic Games and you see all these big figures, all these people that you see on the telly. And then you start playing the games in front of thousands of people live on the telly in the athlete village. And it's just like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. And you do get caught up in the emotions a little bit. Like, I wish I could have gone back to a Paralympics afterwards, because it would probably help me concentrate on the football a little bit more, because you've got so much going on. But no, the first game was against Brazil, host nation. And I always remember walking out, captain of Great Britain, 15,000 people there and thereabouts in the stadium, millions watching around the world, live on the TV. I remember just taking our places to sing the national anthems, and I felt my chest and my heart felt like it was pumping out here. It was like boom, boom, boom. I was sweating, red in the face, really nervous. I was like, this is it. This is what you've worked your whole life for, Jack. This is why you put in the effort. This is why you train so hard for this moment. I just remember singing the national anthems, full of pride. And there was just a small section of Great Britain fans, only about 30 of them. Obviously, the rest were Brazilian. And my mum and sister in the crowd were obviously, you know, instrumental to my recovery. And they just had the Union Jack in hand, okay, proud as punch. And they were just crying, tears of joy. And I've looked at them and I start crying a little bit. I'm like, this is too much for me. I have to look somewhere else. And it was just a special moment. And I remember thinking to myself, before I'd even kicked the ball in that competition, I've done it now. And I just felt pure happiness and joy in my life for the first time in however many years it was, 7 years or so, real happiness. And I feel like that was the moment. I didn't know at the time, but afterwards, that was the moment I could finally put what happened to me to bed. I'd come to terms with what happened, and I finally felt happy in my life again. Absolutely incredible, that game. We lost the game again, 2-1. I mean, what do I say? But it was still a fantastic game. It could have gone either way. They won 2-1, but we hit the post, we hit the bar, we missed a one-on-one. Yeah, it was so close. But they did beat us. But Brazil went on to win the bronze medal, so they got 3rd place. Our next game was against Ukraine, who are the best in the world. They beat us 2-1. But they won gold. They won gold. So we basically had the bronze medal winner and the gold medal winner in our first 2 games. We lost to them 2-1. But as I said, 4 or 5 years ago, we'd have got battered by them both. So the fact that we, you know, improved so much just shows the improvement that we made to only lose out 2-1. Then we got our own back in Ireland again. Sorry again to anybody from the Republic of Ireland. We beat them 5-1. I managed to score a goal in 21 seconds, which I don't even know if it's true or not, but in my talks I say it's the record. And then we beat Argentina 2-0, and we sealed a 5th place finish. So not quite a medal place, which is frustrating, because I do think we were definitely good enough to win a medal in those games. For 1 or 2 reasons, we didn't quite do it. But 5th place finish is still the highest finish, I believe, for a Great Britain team at a Paralympic Games in over 30 years. So an incredible achievement, but more importantly than that, it was the experience. You know, when I see my old teammates and we look each other in the eye again, there's that connection, because we competed for Great Britain in the Paralympic Games, and no one will ever take that away from us. And we just learned so much about each other, about sport, and about life. Unbelievable.
Wow. Congratulations on that. I mean, you did us proud. There's no doubt about that. And it sounds like it's very special to hear you describe that moment where you walked out with the team and saw your family in the stands. How did you concentrate on the football?
It was I couldn't. I was like, my eyes were welling up, and I was like, my leg was shaking. I never felt nerves like that. I didn't feel nervous in the warm-up. It was just seeing my mum and sister like that, and I was like, I need to concentrate here. Like, come on, get a few passes away, get back into the game. It probably did take me 20 minutes to get going, if I'm honest. Yeah. But then I did settle down. I set up the equaliser for Dave. The goal that got us back into the game. Dave Porcher scored a great goal. I did start to influence things a bit more, but I feel like I did get caught up in the emotions a little bit because of this the first game in the Paralympics. But like I said, the experience was second to none. So no, I wouldn't, apart from maybe winning the result, I wouldn't change anything about it. It was amazing.
And clearly you were staying in the athletes' village. I mean, you must have met some really incredible athletes and fellow Paralympians.
Yeah, Ellie Simmons was one of the best. Ellie Simmons obviously is a swimmer. multiple medal winner. She's just so humble and so nice. We'd see her in the lift and she'd be like, how you boys doing? You okay? Good luck today. We'll be tuning in. We're like, this is Ellie Simmons. She is a superstar on another level. She actually knows our names. She knows about our sport. And we just thought that was absolutely fantastic. So she was one of the athletes that stood out the most for me. But I'll tell a quick story as well about another athlete who actually changed my mindset on life completely. And one of the reasons why I talk about, having a positive attitude so much, he was actually a Chinese swimmer. So as you said, in the athlete village, you live there for 3 weeks and there's all sorts of things there. I think there's a cinema, a gym, a swimming pool. It's crazy. But there's a food hall there and it's massive. It's like the same size as 4 football fields. And you have like all sorts of different food on the outside and it's free 24 hours a day. So I was in there a lot because I absolutely love my food. One day I'm walking through and I see this Chinese swimmer. And I've seen him on the telly, multiple winner, world champion, Paralympic champion. But he has no arms. I don't know why, but he's severed there and there, no arms, and he's a swimmer, and he's absolutely rapid. Remember, he was sat there, and he had his food in front of him, but he's by himself. So I actually rather rudely watched him because I didn't know how he was going to eat his food because he's obviously got no arms. You know, I thought, is he going to get an adaptation out? Is someone going to have to come and feed him? But I just stood there and watched him, again, rather rudely. I'm glad I did, as you'll find out in a moment. He then proceeded to put his legs on the table, and he had a fork in between one foot and he had a knife in between the other foot, and then he used his feet as hands to cut up his chicken, bowl up his rice and eat his food. And I was just like, wow, if he can do that, you know, what can I do with my life? If he can do that, what can everybody do if they have a positive attitude towards life? And that really did epitomize the Paralympic Games. Fantastic athletes, fantastic people, and it shows everyone what you can really, truly capable of achieving if you stay positive, you work hard and show resilience. Really, really does.
Yeah, incredible. We've got a few questions that have come in. We talked about Rio. That must have been an extraordinary place to visit, full stop. But someone asked, where are the best places you've ever visited?
Ooh, Rio was obviously unbelievable. You got the Christ Redeemer, you got Sugarloaf Mountain. Absolutely incredible. Just the whole atmosphere that you get, and the people are so vibrant and friendly in Brazil. I'll probably say that was the best place, but I was fortunate enough to go to Argentina the year after for the World Championships, where we got to the semi-final, I'll say. I'll get that in there as well for the first time in our history. So that was a special place to go to. But I absolutely loved Barcelona because it was my first tournament, first experience of playing for my country, and what a city. What a city. If my Spanish could get a little bit better, I would go and live in Barcelona because it's one of my favourite places. It's got the city, the beach, the weather, the food. What more do you want? So, yeah, very lucky to travel around the world playing for my country.
It's a beautiful place. And you've spoken about Eric Cantona being a huge inspirational for your football career. But who do you admire outside of the game?
Oh, good question. Outside of the game, so I admire all my teammates as well, who I had the joy of captaining. But it has to be my family. It has to be my mum. She's tattooed there. Her name's Francesca. Hopefully she gets she's probably watching this now. Hasn't told me, but she'll definitely watch it later.
You might have a tear in her eye now.
Sorry?
You might have a tear in her eye now. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. But, you know, I have a special bond with my mum. Like I said, it hit my family so hard. And, you know, I'd have forgiven her for her saying, you know, I can't cope with this, Jack. It's just too much. You know, it was horrible for everyone. But she showed such strength of character, such resilience to hold us together. You know, I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for my mum. That's an absolute fact. She supported me. She loved me. I just hope I'm half the parent that she is when I have children of my own, because she is the most inspirational person I've ever met. And she's my mum. And I'm just so thankful that I gave back to her in some way by competing for my country. More importantly than that, just trying to be a good person and with my work helping others. So, yeah, it's got to be my mum. She's the one who stands out.
Okay, and so we've spoken about your sort of 2 careers in football, but you retired in 2018, and then that was a result of a change in the classification rules. Is that right?
Yes. Frustration, unfortunately. They changed the rules after the World Championships in 2017 on the types of impairments that could play in the sport. So I was one of the players who got told, unfortunately, you don't quite fit the criteria. anymore. Then the sport went out of the Paralympic Games as well. So in Tokyo, the sport isn't there. So our sport's been hit a little bit hard, if I'm honest, in terms of some of the best players can't play anymore, and we can't compete in the Paralympic Games, which is a frustration. But I just lent upon what I'd learnt before from losing a professional football career, and I said, okay, I can't do that anymore. You can't do anything about it. What can you do? What can you get involved in? So I was doing bits of work, doing speeches and running a few programs for Dame Kelly Homes Trust, you mentioned. But that was when I set up my own company, Rutter Skills School. And that was with work in partnership with other companies and organisations, just working as an ambassador, a motivational speaker, and a mentor. And it's absolutely incredible, giving back to society, trying to help youngsters and other people on their journeys too, and just passing on my experiences of what I've learned in my life. So I really feel lucky to have landed on my feet. I have a career that I thoroughly enjoy, and I do honestly believe that I'm in a better position now than I would have been had I not had a brain injury. Now, some people find that crazy to say, but honestly, I feel like I'm a better person. I have a great career. I've met so many amazing people, so I'm just thankful for the opportunities to have in my life. I really am.
Do you think what you experienced with the injury stood you in good stead for the disappointment with the reclassification?
Definitely, yeah. Nothing's going to, apart from losing a loved one, nothing's going to hit me as hard in life as that. Losing as you said, every kid wants to be a professional something, and I was going to be a professional footballer. So to lose that at that age, in those circumstances, that tested me as much as possibly anything could ever test me. So yes, it was hard. Yes, it was hard to come to terms with when I couldn't play in the Paralympics anymore. But I was like, you know what? You played for 5 years. You captained the team for 4. We've gone from 9th in the world to 4th in the world. The sport's come on leaps and bounds. Be proud of that, and now go into other things. And one of the things I haven't actually mentioned is that I'm a football coach as well. So I coach University of Gloucestershire, but I also coach the under-21 England CP team. So I get the honour of coaching the next generation, and I've just passed my A licence not too long ago, and I have aspirations of hopefully working with the senior team as a coach as well. So I can be one of the first people to play, captain, and then hopefully coach my country. That's what I'm working towards when I'm good enough to do so, and if they want me to. We'll see.
Do you think, when you say coach, you mean involved in the team, or would you like to, effectively what we know as a manager?
Oh yeah, I was trying to be a bit more, humble about it. But yeah, of course, I want to manage the team. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, obviously, I need to learn my trade. I need to get a lot better. The managers we've had have been first class, top coaches, great people. So there's a lot of work to be done. But why not set your goals high? I think I have a lot to give. I'm a quick learner. I know the sport. I know the impairment, and also I want to be involved when we win our first medal, because we're not far away. We're getting so close to winning a medal, and I would love to be involved with the team when we do. I really, really would.
If that's the big goal, I mean, you talked earlier about setting small challenges and completing small tasks, and step by step. If your big ambition is to become the manager of the CP England football team, how are you working towards that now on a step by step basis?
So, well, first of all, when I retired, I thought it could be something I could get involved with. So I did my B licence just before I played in the 2017 World Championship. So I knew I had to educate myself and go on courses. So I did my B licence, and then they gave me the opportunity to work with the under-21 team, just as a sort of coach, do a little bit. Then they said, want me to be head coach. So that was another little goal, another little process to go through. And then they said, well, you need your A licence to work for a senior England team. So I thought, all right then. I'll go on my A licence. I went on that at St George's Park. Fantastic course. Learned so much. So I passed that. I won the league with my University of Gloucestershire team, and I'm just learning all the time. Going on webinars, reading books, watching managers in the Premier League like Jurgen Klopp. I have a lot of admiration for Pep Guardiola. Watching Andy Smith, who's the manager of the senior England team as well. Learning off all the best coaches I've been under in my playing career as well, taking all bits and pieces from them, and just trying to become my own coach, my own philosophy, my own identity. You don't want to copy other people, you want to be your own person, and I'm working towards that. Long way to go, but they're the processes that I'm going through to try and become a coach good enough for my country, and then we'll see where we end up.
Question here, Jack. Can you ever envisage getting back into pro football as a manager?
Oh, I don't know. It's a lot of stress. You see players go into management, and they look all fresh faced and all happy, and then 10 years later they don't look the same. So I don't know if I want to go through that stress. Maybe, who knows? Never say never. At the moment, I do enjoy my work balance as well. So coaching at university gives me an opportunity to still play at semi-professional level as well. So I think university coaching is good. Semi-professional football team could be good as well to coach. I'm doing a bit of it at the moment, the team I play for, and then the England stuff as well. So I think that's where my coaching lies at the moment. But who knows in the future? Someone wants me to replace Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United and work with Pogba and Bruno Fernandes. By all means, I'm more than willing to take it on.
Yeah, you won't worry. You won't be worrying about the grey hairs then, will you?
No, I'll be okay with that one.
And I mean, you are involved with the Premier League team though, in terms of your work with Wolves.
Yeah, so very fortunate. Got approached by Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club during lockdown. And first of all, they said, would you do a few speeches for one of our groups? So it's a Head for Health group, it's a mental health group, and also some pan-disability footballers as well. They really liked it. They got a lot from it. I got a lot from it. And then they said, would you mind being an ambassador? We're launching a load of ambassadors. Jackie Oakley's one who's a presenter. Forgive me, I can't quite remember the rest at the moment. And then they said, Jack, we want you to be an ambassador as well. So it will mean dropping into sessions, doing speeches, doing sessions online, and just trying to support the groups that we have in the community. And I was like, yeah, no problem at all. This is a fantastic opportunity. So I can't wait for, COVID and everything else to be over so I can go into these sessions, meet everyone, and just try and help the local community in Wolverhampton. So I feel very, very fortunate for that opportunity as well. And hopefully I'll get to catch a few games in the Premier League, meet Nuno, the manager, and learn some stuff from him. And I think it could be a really good partnership moving forward. And last week I did a Q&A with the Premier League, and hopefully a lot more Premier League clubs will follow suit, and they'll employ ambassadors from disability sport, disability football as well, because it's good for everyone to be represented in the communities.
Definitely. So we've got sort of just under 5 minutes left, Jack. So I'll maybe a few quick fire sort of questions to finish on. Maybe I mean you talked earlier about playing alongside some fantastic players and against some fantastic players throughout your career. Who are some of the best that you've been involved with?
Oof. I would say the best players I've played with would have to be Jack Butland's probably the best player. Jack Butland's obviously the goalkeeper at Stoke now, but there was a time where he could have easily been England number one. Chelsea were after him, Man United, Liverpool were after him. He's going for a bit of a bad time now at the moment at Stoke, but I have every faith he'll get back to the level he was at. But growing up, he was just unbelievable. 14 years old, he's 6 foot plus. He's a great size, could kick it miles. But the thing that stood out for him, he was so calm and measured. He didn't let anything get to him, didn't let the pressure get to him. Playing 2 years above himself, he just stood out. So he was fantastic. Nathan Redmond was a top player as well. He's now playing for Southampton in the Premier League. Fantastic player there as well. But I played against a few. I would say Daniel Sturridge was unbelievable. Jack Wilshere, when he was at Arsenal, absolutely unbelievable. You've got to remember, Jack Wilshere ran the show against Barcelona at 17, against Xavi, Iniesta and Busquets. So imagine him playing against Birmingham under 16s. That's how he was running the show. Couldn't get near him. So he was a fantastic player. But I also had the privilege of playing against Michael Ballack as well. So I played in a reserve game for Birmingham City Football Club. And Michael Ballack played the first half. He was coming back from injury and he was in centre midfield. Michael Ballack, so it doesn't really get better than that. German international, Premier League winner. If you talk about the last 20 years centre midfield players, Michael Ballack will be in the mix as one of the top ones. So that was absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Did he win a World Cup?
I think he may. I'm not sure if he did. Because I was talking about this the other day. I don't think they quite won it when he was there. I don't think. He won the Champions League. He won the Premier League. Massive fan. The aura he had was intimidating, unbelievable on the ball. So that was a great experience.
Yeah. And someone's asked, what are your other passions outside of football?
Oh, well, I'm a very bad golfer. I'll tell you that. Awful at golf, but I do love golf. I was on the course this morning playing, trying to get better. One thing I've done a lot in lockdown is read a lot more. I had a bit more time, so I tried to read books on different things. Whether it's mindset or sporting stories. I read the book about Phil Knight, who's the creator of Nike. Unbelievable story, one of the best books I've ever read. So trying to read a little bit, play other sports, keep generally fit. But the main thing I like doing is socialising with people, catching up with people. So going on Zoom and doing quizzes, going to see my mum in Cornwall, spending time with my girlfriend, my friends. They're the main things that have kept me busy during lockdown, and pretty much all the things that I try and do other than my working life and obviously my coaching and playing as well.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of minutes left. So I'm gonna ask you 2 more questions, and I'm gonna wrap up.
Okay.
I say I'm going to ask you 2 more questions. I've got one question from John, again, John Boulding, and I'm going to ask you myself. So this is from John. I've seen some of your tweets regarding getting disabled athletes on TV to host and co-host sports programs. What do you think we can do as athletes to push for that to happen?
Well, we need to get given the opportunity first and foremost. So that's what maybe needs to change a little bit from the broadcasters and media outlets. But I think we need to just keep pushing it. We also need to do well. So not only do we need to do well on the football field as disability footballers, but then we need to be in a position to do well when we get that opportunity. So whether that's, doing speeches in schools, doing Zoom calls, going on a course in terms of communication, we need to be in a position so we get the opportunity, we do well, and we're good enough to be there. I don't want things to be a tick box exercise. I don't want things to be, we need to give someone with a disability an opportunity. No. We're more than good enough to do it. We all have unbelievable stories who could be to the top level. Look at John, he's a European champion. I'd love to see him on Sky Sports News, broadcasting a game or something like that. But it's just about keep knocking on the door, be good enough to do it when you get the opportunity, and just keep pushing it. And Twitter's a great platform to do it because hopefully, I won't mention certain broadcasters, but the broadcasters will see, and then hopefully someone will get an opportunity, and then that will set a trend then so that more people can follow. I've managed to be part of things for the first time. I'm an ambassador at McDonald's Fun Football UK, one of the first people to be, model the New England football kit, which I feel very fortunate about, but I don't want it to stop there. I want more and more disability footballers to get the opportunities that I have. I shouldn't be the only one. I want more people to have those opportunities because everyone deserves the right to have those opportunities.
Yeah, well, maybe you're the next Match of the Day host, Jack. One day.
I'll take over Gary Lineker. Don't worry about that. I've got a few things to say about him if you want. No, I'm only joking.
And so, final one from me. I like to ask this of our guests. What one piece of advice would you give our viewers about overcoming adversity?
I feel like if we've had more opportunity to speak to people on the calls, I think I could learn so much from people on this call. So, but from my perspective, overcoming adversity is all about your mindset, and you can train your mind to do things when you're going through a bad time. So reframing situations, I think, are important. Self-talk and visualization, I think, is important. So trying to G yourself up, say to yourself, I'm good enough, I can get through this. It's a hard time, but in a week's time, a month's time, it's going to be better. Lean upon support networks, whether that's friends, family, or charities that can help you out, and just show that resilience. I know firsthand that people on this call are incredibly resilient people. So it's just about trying to do those things and just staying positive. It can get better. I know this time has been hard for a lot of people on the call. I know people have been shielding after speaking with Michael, and I can't begin to understand what that's like. But to stay positive, it will get better. Reframe the situation. Use your time in a positive way, in a productive way at the moment. And then when we're allowed to get back into the world and be part of society again, then you'll be in a better position for it. I know that's a lot there, but that's pretty much how I'll try and summarize how to get through adversity. Yeah,
it's fantastic advice. I think this is a great moment to do a Muscle Warrior salute. I don't know if you've been told about our Muscle Warrior.
Don't worry, I know it. Don't worry. I've been raring to go for this one.
Yeah, well, it's a symbol of hope for our beneficiaries, and I think your message of hope is a fantastic one. So here's to the Muscle Warrior team.
There it is.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jack. I mean, it's been genuinely a real privilege to talk to you, and your story is incredible, and I'm sure our viewers will get a lot from what you're saying. So thank you for taking the time. Just before we finish up, we'd like you to give us your feedback. So please head to the charity's Facebook page, where you'll find a short questionnaire. If we can improve the viewing experience, we will endeavour to do so. Also, if you'd like to make a donation in support of the Muscle Health Foundation, you'll be helping the charity expand its efforts in delivering many more Muscle Dream experiences in the future. If you choose to do that, thank you so much in advance. And for those who may wish to volunteer or fundraise for us,
head to musclehelp.com. That's musclehelp.com. Message us and let's talk. We always need new recruits, and we are so open-minded about weird and wonderful ideas to raise money. For our beneficiaries and our families who tuned in today, thank you so much for watching, and remember, we will always be stronger together. We'll be back on Friday, the 2nd of October at 4 p.m. for a chat with Gordon Robertson. He's the Chief Porsche driving consultant and a Muscle Warrior advocate. I've met Gordon a number of times. He's fantastic. He can drive very, very fast around Silverstone in a Porsche. And just to remind you that you can watch all the past sessions on our website and our social channels. Catch up. There's loads of great chats there, a real archive of fantastic treasures. All that remains for me to do is to say thank you again to our guest, Jack Rutter. Brilliant stuff.
Really, pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you also to those who are supporting behind the scenes. That's Grace and Jem. You guys are doing a fantastic job and we really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Have a fantastic weekend.